Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott. Thank you so much for joining me. I am about to rip out my beautiful, long, luscious hair because I'm so frustrated. And what am I frustrated with? I'm frustrated with the political discourse that we've been having in this country over the last 5 days. And what happened 5 days ago? We had our president, President Trump, and Elon Musk, his former best friend, get in a big fight online. I'm not going to recap all of the insults that they hurled at each other. If you missed it, I mean, you got to go get yourself caught up to speed, better than any reality TV show. But what's really frustrated me was not the fight, because I actually kind of like drama, so that didn't really bother me. But what I didn't like was that I didn't like the discourse that we've heard since then. But let me kind of set the scene a little bit. They were fighting over Donald Trump's new bill, the one big beautiful bill. It has not passed yet, and if it does pass, I'll do a little video highlighting what's in it if it does pass. But basically, Elon's not happy with the bill because he doesn't think there's enough spending cuts in there, and so we right now, the United States, have around $36 trillion in debt. Last year, I might as well pull this up right now. Last year, we had a $1.3 trillion deficit. And so basically what that means is that we spent $1.83 trillion more than what we took in via tax revenues. And so basically Elon's complaint was that if you keep on, pushing the spending issue down the road off to someone else, and you don't make big cuts now, then our deficit is going to continue. That's going to push up the national debt even more. The interest payments are going to accrue even more, and then we're basically, in his words, going to become debt slaves. So that's what basically the fight was about. But what I have been frustrated with over the last week or over the last 5 days is they haven't said. And really, no one that's really been talking about this issue, because I've listened to some different politicians talk about, what's going on and tweaks that they could make to the bill. But no politicians talking about like the real issue that's at hand with what we have with our deficits and the reason why it's a runaway number and it's so hard to get down. And let's just look at the chart right here, and you can see on the top right, Social Security. And so the four words that no one has said, that I have not heard one single, Republican member say, is reform, Social Security, and Medicare. Okay, that's 5 words. I forgot "and," but you know what I'm saying. No one has said that. No one is saying, what we really need to do to cut down on the deficit, to fix the national debt, and to get our spending under control, and really right the ship is make a reform to these big programs. And we'll get into why that is in a second. But let's just look at the numbers. So 2024, fiscal year 2024, Social Security spending, $1.4 trillion with a T. Down below it, you see $912 billion for health. That's basically Medicaid. If you go on down a little bit more, you'll see Medicare, which is health insurance for people over the age of 65, and that's 882. That's the net interest. That's also a massive number. 874 was our Medicare number. So 874 billion to Medicare. 1.4 trillion to Social Security. And so what are we looking at? 2.2. And so you look at that, you look at those numbers, and we only have $4.9 trillion in tax receipts. So I should have done this earlier. 2.2, what percentage is that? 45%. So we've got 45% of our tax revenues that we get are going to two programs, Social Security and Medicare. And so the reason why I've been so frustrated over the last 5 days is that I get that, maybe you don't like the bill, maybe there's some other stuff that people don't like about it. But if the true concern is, hey, we've really got to cut down the deficit, we've really got to knock down the interest that we're paying. Again, $882 billion of interest that we're paying every year. So that's that's getting close to being 20% of our tax revenues. It just going straight to interest payments. So that's a ton of money. And I actually do agree that it is a problem and we need to be adults and we need to fix it. But I'm going to go into why I don't think we're going to fix it in a second. But I'm frustrated because no one is saying explicitly, hey, what we really need to do is we really need to reform Social Security and Medicare somehow, some way, so that the program's more sustainable. We created them, 80, 90, 100 years ago. So we've got to modernize them to the modern world, modern workforce, etc. No one's saying that. So it's a little frustrating on my end. But let's go into why people aren't saying that. And so we're going to do a little bit of a history tour. I've got the New York Times pulled up, the headline, and I'm going to kind of explain why I don't think anyone's really touching this right now. New York Times, Democrats ad has Bush mistreating elderly. And I could not find the video for this, but you'll just have to go along with me reading the text. The image is stark. A cartoon rendition of President Bush saying, "Trust me," as he shoves President Bush shoves two people in wheelchairs down a jagged line of a chart. As the two figures tumble along the zigs and the zags, a narrator describes Mr. Bush's proposal to permit the investment of retirement funds in the stock market as a threat to Social Security, noting how much the market has declined over the past 2 years. Bush and Republicans still want to push their privatization plan through Congress, and they will if you let them. Videos up on the website of the DNC and was put up within the last 24 hours, drawing the ire of a lot of Republicans back then. So that was 2002. Again, President Bush pushing elderly people off wheelchairs. That was when he tried to make 4% of payroll taxes, which fund Social Security and Medicare. So 4% would have gone into private accounts that could have been invested in the stock market. The other 96% of that money would have continued in on Social Security as is. So 96% would have been the same, 4% would have been different into basically like a stock market kind of portfolio, which over the last 23, I think George W. Bush proposed his Social Security plan in 2005. This came out in 2002 because he was thinking about it, and so there's a commission at the time. But yeah, if you look at the stock market over the last 20 years, that would have been pretty nice. Probably a much better rate of return than what Social Security has returned for us. And so that was George W. Bush doing it back in 2011. I'm not going to show you this whole video. Hopefully the audio can pick it up. Paul Ryan, a House Republican from Wisconsin, and this is 2011, before Mitt Romney put him on his presidential ticket as his vice presidential nominee. 2011, Paul Ryan put out kind of like a white paper explaining some cuts that he wanted to make. And this is an ad that a Democrat PAC made of him. So let's watch this together if we can. Oh, and then anyone listening on the podcast, we've got a Paul Ryan lookalike pushing grandma off of a cliff, and there she goes, and she's falling down the cliff, and she's gone. Okay. All right, we'll stop that there. And so that was in 2011 when Paul Ryan tried to make reforms to Medicare. So George W. Bush reforms to Social Security. He had an ad drawn up of him pushing people off of their wheelchair. Paul Ryan, same thing, 2011 for Medicare. Him pushing grandma off of a cliff, killing her. And then in and I didn't find any good ads for this, but just to let you know, in 2011, 2012, around this same era, Barack Obama was involved in negotiations with John Boehner, the former Speaker of the House. He was a Republican from Ohio, and it actually would have cut, i.e. reformed Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in exchange for tax increases on higher income individuals. I don't have all the details on this. I know you're looking at the Google AI overview. I can assure you that this is correct. I lived through it, and I actually just double checked my numbers outside of AI, but that's correct. So basically, we had George W. Bush. And then, by the way, Obama was obviously not successful in getting this across the finish line. He actually had a lot of Democrat support. He had moderate Republican support, but the the lower tax conservative base of the Republican Party did not get on board, and so they just didn't have enough votes. And I think John Boehner was Speaker at the time, which meant Republicans had the House, and they just didn't have enough numbers to get it all the way through. So we've had three different politicians try and fail to reform any of these programs, especially Social Security and Medicare, and then Donald Trump sitting in the wings, watching everything going on over the last few decades. He starts running for president in 2015, and I think this clip that I'm going to show you is from 2016. And funny enough, if you're listening on the podcast, this is from Bernie Sanders' YouTube channel. So let's listen in on this if we can.
Every Republican wants to do a big number on Social Security. They want to do it on Medicare. They want to do it on Medicaid. And we can't do that. And it's not fair to the people that have been paying in for years, and now all of a sudden they want to be cut.
And there you go. Just in terms of political savviness, like not touching Social Security and Medicare, that's a really smart strategy for a Republican. We've seen what happened to Bush. We saw what happened to Paul Ryan. If you try and reform any of that, they call it a privatization program, even though only 4% of it was going to go into the stock market fund for George W. Bush. They'll make a picture of you knocking grandma off the cliff. I'm absolutely positive Barack Obama got a barrage of insults for him reforming the program from the left and the right. So I'm not trying to make this a political, partisan thing. Like if anyone tries to touch this program, they're going to get hit, maybe from their own team, maybe from the other team. So the issue that we have, and the issue that I have, is that if we want to really knock down the deficit, knock down that interest, and chip away at the national debt that we have, $36 trillion, we're going to have to do something with Social Security and Medicare. We're going to have to figure out some kind of fix where we can get enough politicians on the left and the right to make some kind of compromises and say, how do we make this program fit the modern world as opposed to 1935? Right now, we don't have nearly enough people willing to make those cuts. So we've got Elon and Trump saying, oh, we're going to cut USAID, we're going to cut foreign aid, etc. And those I'm not going to debate whether those programs should or shouldn't be cut. I mean, if you just look at USAID spending, it was $21 billion last year, and then I think foreign aid was, let's see if we got that up here. Yeah, it was $117 billion. So definitely big numbers, a lot of money. The politicians can debate whether it's worth it or not, but that's not the big issue. The big issue is Social Security and Medicare. So as long as I'm going to be listening to politicians speak, and maybe I should stop doing that, if they're going to complain about the national debt, if they're going to complain about the deficit, I've got to hear them say the words reform Social Security and Medicare. And that's 5 words, not 4. That's all I've got for you guys tonight. Hope you're having a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye.